Qixi festival in the scorching apocalypse, the entire neighborhood is trapped at home, unable to move, lacking clothes and food. My husband and I unexpectedly obtain two fruits. One can transform into a strong and brave tiger, the other can only transform into a humble and insignificant ant. In his previous life, my husband, afraid of going out to fight wild beasts, was the first to eat the ant fruit. Go for it. My dear wife, I'll be relying on you to support me from now on. Relying on my transformation ability, I risked life and limb for 3 years, covered in scars and nearly dying multiple times. I barely managed to support our small family. I never expected that after returning to reality, my husband would personally push me into the deep sea. Isn't it just a few hunting trips? Is that any reason to flaunt your achievements all day and give me attitude? I've had enough. If you hadn't stolen my tiger fruit, I could have used my transformation ability to save Muqing and Yang. You've been good to me, but you're just too selfish. Even in a life-or-death situation, you still have to compete with me. My husband grew angrier as he spoke, and suddenly raised his hand and threw our 6-year-old daughter down. And this little bastard, if she had eaten just a few less bites, Muqing and Yang wouldn't have starved to death. You too, mother and daughter, go to hell and repent properly. My eyes were wide with rage, but the icy seawater left me helpless. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to 3 years ago. This time, my husband was the first to eat the tiger fruit. I know, he has also been reborn, but he didn't know. Seemingly useless ants are the true rulers of this post-apocalyptic world. Please choose your respective fruits. A cold, mechanical voice sounded in my ear once again. The bitter taste of seawater still lingered in my mouth and nose. Am I reborn? In my previous life, when Zhang Haoxiang and I discovered that the world had truly undergone a drastic change, a heat wave is rolling in. Unexpectedly, 2 fruits appear before my eyes. A mechanical voice says, "We are the chosen lucky ones. By eating the fruit, one can gain the superpower to transform." Everything matches the memory. The only difference is Zhang Haoxiang. He lunged at the golden glowing fruit like a starving dog pouncing on food. "I want the tiger fruit." He wolfed down his food, even chewing and swallowing the fruit pits. After finishing, he let out a satisfied burp and looked at me proudly, his eyes brimming with unconcealed joy. I finally understood that I wasn't the only one who had been reborn. I sneered inwardly, over and over again. Since you feel pity for Su Muqing and her child, yet harbor deep hatred for me, your savior, then this time, you can go to hell together with them. I calmly stepped forward and picked up that dark, dull fruit. Then I choose the ant fruit. Looking back, Zhang Haoxiang had already begun eagerly experimenting with his new ability. A flash of golden light appeared, and a majestic tiger stood before him, like a little boy with a new toy. Zhang Haoxiang unleashed his power on the furniture. Soon, the house was in complete disarray. Not satisfied, he turned his gaze toward me. The tiger, with its bloodthirsty maw wide open and claws bared, lunged at me. Just 1 centimeter away from my eyes, it stopped. TCH, how boring, not scared at all. Zhang Haoxiang unenthusiastically reverted from his transformation and leaned his head close to my face. Darling, now the tiger is mine. Do you feel envious and resentful? After all, it can tear any prey apart, while an ant is utterly useless. My excessive calmness made him start to probe. In his gaze, I could see doubt and wariness. I smiled nonchalantly. Honey, what are you talking about? Aren't we family? What's yours is mine. So why would I be envious? I'd be thrilled if you became even stronger. I stepped forward and began massaging his shoulders. As a woman, I don't like fierce tigers at all. I prefer gentle ants. Under my flattery, the wariness in Zhang Haoxiang's eyes gradually faded. It was replaced by nostalgia. I understood that he was reminiscing about Su Muqing and her child, who had starved to death at home in the first year. Sure enough, he cleared his throat and spoke in a domineering tone. Take good care of the house. I'm going out for a bit. He excitedly ran out of the house and knocked on the door across the street. Ignoring the other person's look of disdain, he pushed his way inside. Muqing, let's go inside and talk. Mom, is Dad coming back? My daughter's somewhat timid voice came from behind. Tears instantly welled up in my eyes. I held my daughter tightly in my arms. There's still time. This time, I will definitely save myself and my daughter. Wiping away my tears, I begin to transform. Zhang Haoxiang has always been one to judge by appearances. After giving birth, my figure changed and my skin became dull, so he fell in love with the beautiful divorced neighbor, Su Muqing. Between an ant and a tiger, he also prefers the majestic tiger, but he never thought about it. If there's nothing extraordinary, why should a tiny ant be placed alongside a mighty tiger for us to choose? My transformation process isn't as grand as Zhang Haoxiang's. In the blink of an eye, I turned into a human-sized black ant. Comforting my clearly frightened daughter, I walked towards the refrigerator. The heavy refrigerator feels as light as a sheet of paper in my hands. Just as I suspected, I secretly rejoice. The ant is best known to the world for its weightlifting ability. A tiny ant can effortlessly lift objects 400 times its own body weight. I have a hunch, this ant I've transformed into. The limit is not just 400 times. After settling my daughter, I went out. I carefully walked over 10 kilometers through the wilderness and arrived at a cave entrance. This was a secret base I discovered during my previous life as a hunter. Inside is a river valley, clean and spacious, as it is not directly exposed to the scorching sun. It has ample water sources and a cool temperature. What is even more remarkable is that it has only one entrance and exit. The only problem is that the cave entrance is too large, and ferocious beasts often enter to drink water. But this is not a big problem for me. I lifted an enormous boulder and placed it at the entrance of the cave. An elephant passed by and wanted to go in to drink water, but no matter how hard it tried, the boulder didn't budge at all. Only then did I feel at ease. If even the elephant was helpless, then the little tiger would be even more powerless. Glancing at the sky, I got up and headed home. As soon as I reached the hallway, I heard a commotion coming from inside the house. Amidst the heart-wrenching cries of my daughter, I muttered, "Oh no," under my breath and immediately rushed into the house. Su Muqing's son, Li Chaoyang, was sitting on top of my daughter, holding a bowl and forcing something into her mouth with a sinister grin. "Open your mouth. Sis, I'm treating you to some meat." Zhang Haoxiang and Su Muqing were gathered around a steaming pot of meat, eating heartily and chatting with laughter. Honestly, eating dog meat in an air-conditioned room during summer is just so satisfying. I stepped forward and forcefully pushed Li Chaoyang aside, and my daughter hugged me, sobbing uncontrollably. "Mom, Xingxing." Dad threw Xingxing away. I was taken aback and stiffly turned to look at the doghouse. Inside, there were only a few clumps of messy fur and patches of bloodstains. Seeing me return, Zhang Haoxiang raised an eyebrow and said with displeasure, "Just two kids joking around. Was it really necessary to be so harsh?" He helped Li Chaoyang up with a pained expression, then said coldly to me, "It's the apocalypse, and you still treat a dog like a treasure. People aren't even getting enough to eat. How could there be any for it?" After speaking, he looked ingratiatingly at Su Muqing and her son. Being able to offer its last bit of warmth and become food for Muqing and Yang Yang is its greatest honor. When he said this, he seemed to have forgotten. His daughter has had autism since childhood, and Star is her emotional support dog. Only by holding it could his daughter speak a few words, albeit limitedly. In the past, even if I went hungry myself, I would never let Star go without food. It was the third year of the apocalypse, my daughter's only source of comfort. As I thought about it, tears uncontrollably streamed down my face. Seeing this, Zhang Haoxiang impatiently handed me a bowl of meat soup. "Eat up. It's not like we didn't save any for you. What's the big deal?" I knocked the bowl over in one swift motion and dashed into the kitchen. "My daughter and I absolutely will not eat Stars." "But soon," I roared. "Zhang Haoxiang, where is the food in the house? The refrigerator in front of me is completely empty. All the vegetables, meat, and rice I had consciously saved up have vanished without a trace." Zhang Haoxiang's indifferent voice came from the living room. "You mean that food? I gave them all to Muqing. Yang Yang is a boy, and he's at the age where he's growing, so he has a big appetite. Of course, good steel should be used on the blade." I was a bit flustered and exasperated. "Then what will my daughter and I eat?" Zhang Haoxiang's tone was somewhat displeased. "Just a little food. Is it really necessary to be so calculative?" As expected, this is how housewives are, only focused on trivial gains in front of them, unable to see the greater love in the world. After saying that, he ignored me and went straight to drinking with Su Muqing. "Muqing, happy Qixi festival." Su Muqing pretended to agree, but the disdain in her eyes couldn't escape my notice. by the time they had all enjoyed themselves to the fullest, Zhang Haoxiang said to me drunkenly, "Look at you. You've completely embarrassed me. Have you forgotten that I could transform and hunt? It's just food, nothing worth mentioning." He chuckled, seemingly beginning to imagine his daily harvest piling up like a mountain. I couldn't help but sneer inwardly. Hunting, if only it were as simple as he thought. Watching Zhang Haoxiang sound asleep, I couldn't resist reaching for the kitchen knife beside me. After a long while, I gave up on that idea. The secret base isn't finished yet, and my daughter and I still need to rely on him to get by for a while. Even if this period will be exceptionally painful, I'm willing to endure it. At night, my daughter held me tightly, unable to fall asleep for a long time. "Mom, will the stars come back again?" Looking into her hopeful eyes, I nodded firmly. "They definitely will." In the days that followed, Zhang Haoxiang tried his hand at hunting. However, he had only inherited the tiger's physical prowess and knew nothing about hunting techniques. For several days in a row, he couldn't even catch a single rabbit. For my daughter's sake, I had no choice but to grit my teeth and teach him. Zhang Haoxiang began to make some gains. It was a rabbit, but all that reached my daughter and me was a rabbit leg. Just back from Su Muqing's house, Zhang Haoxiang, with a greasy sheen on his lips, couldn't quite meet my eyes. The rabbit ran too fast. I only had time to tear off one leg. Without exposing this clumsy lie, my daughter and I calmly shared and finished the rabbit leg. During the day, Zhang Haoxiang went out hunting, and I wasn't idle either. Zhang Haoxiang was completely absorbed in Su Muqing's tender affections all day long, completely unaware that the house had become empty. Furniture, my daughter's toys, generators, I thoroughly moved out all the useful things. I even took advantage of the night to secretly haul away an unoccupied villa. That day, Zhang Haoxiang returned home early from Su Muqing's place, which was quite unusual. He said with great seriousness, "Darling, next week I will bring Su Muqing and Yang Yang over. It's not easy for them as a widow and her child. You must take good care of them for me. If you do well, I can even reserve the position of the first wife for you. Also, I think Yang Yang and your daughter are a good match. You should let them spend more time together when you can. Good things come in pairs." Watching Zhang Haoxiang lost in his dream of having both, I nodded calmly. After he fell asleep, I took out a bag of seeds from the closet. I had kept these just in case when I first crossed over. Holding my daughter, I disappeared into the night. As my daughter happily rolled around on the large bed in the villa, I activated the surveillance hidden in Zhang Haoxiang's home. Now, it's time to see with my own eyes how he and Su Muqing are, step by step towards hell. Early the next morning, Zhang Haoxiang brought Su Muqing and her child home. Under the guise of an inspection, it's clear that Su Muqing and her son are quite disdainful of Zhang Haoxiang, but Zhang Haoxiang acts as if he's blind, persistently trying to get close to Su Muqing. He patted his chest and assured her, "Muqing, do you like it? From now on, this will be the home for you and your son." Su Muqing was somewhat displeased. "Only 3 rooms. That's way too few." She looked at Zhang Haoxiang with a scrutinizing gaze. "Are you expecting me to squeeze into one room with Yang Yang?" Zhang Haoxiang hurriedly explained. "How could that be? Of course, one for you and one for Yang Yang. Later, I'll have my wife and daughter sleep on the floor in the kitchen, so as not to offend your eyes." Su Muqing refused to accept this. "Such a small room, and it has to accommodate 5 people. It's way too crowded. I'm not moving in." After saying that, she made as if to leave. Zhang Haoxiang quickly stepped forward to stop her, forcing a smile as he said, "Someone has to take care of the household chores, right? If we don't keep that old hag and the money-losing burden, are you and Yang Yang going to do it? Don't you want a life where clothes are handed to you and meals are served to your mouth?" A few simple words made Su Muqing's heart flutter. Zhang Haoxiang then crouched down and said to Li Chaoyang, "Yang Yang, didn't you say last time that you wanted your little sister to be your toy?" "Uncle agrees. You can play with her as long as you want." Li Chaoyang cheered and hugged Zhang Haoxiang affectionately, calling him Dad Zhang. This made Zhang Haoxiang's eyes crinkle with a smile. Watching their joyful scene, a cold smile appeared at the corner of my mouth. Wishful thinking. At that moment, Li Chaoyang walked around the house and asked Zhang Haoxiang, "Dad Zhang, where's your PS5? "Right there." Zhang Haoxiang pointed casually, then suddenly froze. He finally realized, the house was already stripped bare. "Mom, it's fun." My daughter put down the controller, a long-lost smile on her face. "I bought this to try and bring my daughter some joy, but it had been occupied by Li Chaoyang for a long time. Now it has finally been returned to its rightful owner," patting my daughter's head. I took the seeds and went outside. During these days, aside from secretly moving in various supplies, I also cleared a large area of farmland. I sowed the seeds one by one, then watered them a little and applied some fertilizer. After finishing all this, I carried the large bucket filled with water to the cave entrance. When I lifted the boulder to enter and exit the secret base earlier, there was a pack of wild wolves at the cave entrance. After witnessing my actions, they were utterly amazed and howled at the sky. A snow-white wolf, seemingly their leader, it came before me, looked at the water source in the valley, and prostrated itself on the ground. In exchange, from time to time, they would offer me some game. Sometimes it was a cow, sometimes a sheep, and sometimes even a wild boar. I'm really troubled. The wolves have given too much, and the fridge is almost full. Besides, eating too much meat isn't good for you. I glanced back at the vegetable garden. I hope the vegetables grow quickly. After all, a balanced diet of meat and vegetables is the way to go for the long term. The phone rang. It was Zhang Haoxiang. "Chen Shui, where the hell have you gone, you bitch? Hurry back. If you don't come back, who's going to cook for me?" At this moment, he is still deeply immersed in the insincerity I showed him earlier. "I won't be coming back." My icy words shattered his illusions. Zhang Haoxiang said somewhat disdainfully. "After just 2 full meals for 2 days, do you really think you've grown wings? Without me, could you survive in this apocalyptic world? Chen Shui, I'm warning you, if you keep acting up, don't blame me for really abandoning you." "Oh, that would be just perfect." My casual remark completely broke Zhang Haoxiang. "If you have the guts, don't let me find you, or I'll make you pay." I sighed helplessly and placed the bucket of water in front of the wolf pack, whose eyes were practically glowing green. "All right, I'll be waiting any time." Not to mention that boulder that would make anyone despair. It's the hundreds of disciplined wolves right in front of us, nor can Zhang Haoxiang's mediocre skills handle it. If he could make me pay the price, I'll write the character, chin upside down. I waited for several days, but Zhang Haoxiang never showed up. Instead, the surveillance footage showed Su Muqing and her child again. This time, they had truly moved in. Seeing my parents' new house, which they bought in full, being taken over by them, saying I'm not angry would be a lie, but the moment I think about the tricks I played at home, my anger instantly subsides. I even ate 2 extra pieces of meat, although my daughter didn't understand. She followed my lead and ate 2 extra pieces as well. I gently patted her head. In my previous life, there was Zhang Haoxiang, and also Su Muqing and her son who would occasionally come to take advantage. Both my daughter and I had very little food, just enough to barely survive. The extra all went to that despicable couple. This time, I'm going to raise my daughter to be fair and plump. "Haoxiang, is this all the food you have at home? How are you going to support me and Yang?" Su Muqing rummaged through the household supplies and got a bit angry. Zhang Haoxiang wasn't annoyed either. He chuckled and moved closer to Su Muqing, giving her waist a playful pat, just as she was about to get angry. Zhang Haoxiang whispered in her ear, "How is that possible? Are you lying to me?" Zhang Haoxiang raised his eyebrows smugly and transformed. Watching the majestic tiger, Su Muqing was overjoyed. She leaned against Zhang Haoxiang, who had returned to human form, and said in a coquettish tone, "Brother Zhang, you're amazing. Yang and I will be counting on you from now on." "No problem." Zhang Haoxiang waved his hand grandly and took on the responsibility. Then he looked at Su Muqing with a lustful gaze. "You know I like you, right? We're both adults, so I don't need to say more, do I?" Zhang Haoxiang, blinded by lust, didn't notice the flash of disgust in Su Muqing's eyes. "But you have a wife and children," Zhang Haoxiang said nonchalantly. "Without my protection, they would have died out there long ago, not even a bone left. Unmarried man and unmarried woman, we're a perfect match." Su Muqing half-heartedly agreed. For the next period of time, Zhang Haoxiang indeed left early and returned late every day, all to present a grand gift to his beloved. Unfortunately, he was too timid, always hesitating and shrinking back when facing fierce beasts. As for the smaller herbivores, his skills were rusty. and he often ended up empty-handed. What he brought home every day was either a rabbit or a chick. At first, Su Muqing didn't say much, just kept mumbling about a promising future. As time went by, things started to change. "Are you a tiger or a kitten? Can you actually do it or not?" Zhang Haoxiang argued stubbornly. "I'm just being cautious. What would happen to you too if I got hurt?" Su Muqing wanted to make a few more sarcastic remarks, but seeing Zhang Haoxiang on the verge of losing his temper, she held back. She simply said calmly, "It's too hot. I'm going to turn on the air conditioner. Perhaps the newbie protection period has passed. And we are finally witnessing the truly brutal side of the high-temperature apocalypse, that is the heat, far beyond what is known in modern times, at least 20 to 30 degrees higher than the highest summer temperatures. Fortunately, we live in an upscale community where each building has its own independent solar power supply. As long as there's air conditioning, no one will die from the heat, just like my daughter, who is now enjoying a watermelon in an air-conditioned room." But Zhang Haoxiang and Su Muqing, the mother and son in the video, are not so fortunate. They were steaming all over, as if they had just been fished out of the water. "Is the air conditioner broken?" "Broken? Of course not." I touched the cool air and smiled. "The house on the 18th floor can't be taken away. Can't even a central air conditioning system be taken away?" Watching the three of them panting like little dogs to cool off on the surveillance footage, I felt as refreshed as if I had drunk sweet dew. In my previous life, Zhang Haoxiang used the excuse of celebrating our survival to take me and our daughter on a cruise. It wasn't until I was submerged in the icy, bone-chilling seawater that I saw this man's true colors. Now he's finally getting what he deserves. I couldn't be happier. In my excitement, I even took a box of ice pops from the fridge and posted it on my social media. To provoke Zhang Haoxiang, I specifically tagged him. "Summer and ice pops are a perfect match." As expected, his call came. "Chen Shui, you and your daughter are still alive. It's so hot outside. Are you okay? Why are you eating a popsicle? Shouldn't good things be shared with family?" This time, his voice was full of patience. "You can at me. Which proves you still have me in your heart. Where are you? Your husband is here to pick you and our daughter up." At the end of his words, he finally bared his fangs. "No need. You just to flaunt my superiority. I'm satisfied now. Goodbye." I quickly hung up the phone. Before hanging up, I heard the sound of things being smashed on the other end. It seems Zhang Haoxiang was truly broken. Ignoring this scumbag, I slept soundly. Early the next morning, I took my daughter to the open-pit coal mine. As time goes on, the temperature will continue to rise. The cloud cover will gradually thin out until it completely disappears. Extreme high temperatures combined with hurricanes will completely damage the solar modules, making the supply of electricity exceptionally difficult. Only the most primitive thermal power generation would work. In my previous life, after discovering this open-pit coal mine, I repeatedly advised Zhang Haoxiang to come with me to transport the coal. Even then, I had a premonition that his ant transformation might not be so simple. But from beginning to end, he was afraid to leave that cool little cabin. "Chen Shui, that's enough. I know the tiger is formidable, and I admit the ant is just trash. There's no need for you to keep rubbing salt in my wounds." Yet he always thought I was being sarcastic toward him. He wasn't even willing to transform to confirm my suspicion. In his heart, the ugly and insignificant ant is his shame. So I had to hunt and transport coal. Naturally, efficiency was greatly reduced. What's more severe is that as the temperature rose rapidly, a large number of animals began to disappear. Hunting became even more difficult. For my daughter, I turned into a tiger for the first time and attacked Zhang Haoxiang. From then on, I held the household food tightly in my hands and never shared it with Su Muqing and her son again. Through careful budgeting, our family of 3 survived, though not without some close calls. As for Su Muqing and her son, after losing their ability to leech off others, they starved to death in just 1 year. Zhang Haoxiang also hated me to the bone because of this. The jolting from beneath interrupted my memories. Yes, lured by water sources and habitats, the wolf pack bowed down to me, riding on the white wolf. I couldn't help but let my imagination run wild. Is this how dogs were domesticated? Arriving at the coal mine, I touched the white wolf's nose and began loading coal into the basket. Just as I had loaded half of it, a surprised voice came from behind. "Chen Shui." I suddenly felt a sense of gloom. because it came from Zhang Haoxiang, yet he was completely unaware, trotting over to my side. "You've actually gained weight." Looking at the somewhat thin tiger in front of me, I couldn't help but feel a little amused. "You two, mother and daughter, are living so well. You must have found a good place, right?" Faced with his probing, I neither confirmed nor denied it. Not getting an answer from me, he turned his gaze to my daughter. The daughter hid behind the white wolf in fear. "Don't be scared, sweetie, it's Daddy." Zhang Haoxiang forced a smile. "Where have you and Mom been living lately? Why didn't you call Daddy to join you? A family should be together, don't you think?" The daughter nodded somewhat hesitantly. "That's more like it. When the time comes, I'll bring your Aunt Sue along. And your favorite big brother Yang Yang. Our whole family will live together happily." Zhang Haoxiang even drooled at the corner of his mouth, beginning to envision a wonderful future. He was greeted by a stone thrown with force by his daughter. "You little wretch, how dare you hit me? It seems you're asking for a lesson." The tiger bared its fangs and charged at the daughter like lightning. At that moment, I panicked. Subconsciously, he let go of the coal on his back, facing the fierce tiger. The white wolf remained calm and composed. With a gentle push of its tail, it nudged its daughter into the midst of the wolves, while charging straight at Zhang Haoxiang. Seeing the giant wolf baring its cold, sharp fangs, Zhang Haoxiang panicked, his steps faltering slightly. At that moment, a large basket of coal fell from the sky. It hit him so hard that he was dazed and even reverted to his original form. He suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood and looked at me in disbelief. "Qin Shui, you lied to me. You deliberately tricked me into choosing the tiger, just for this immense power. You really are a despicable person." I was so infuriated by his twisted logic that I laughed. "Didn't you steal the tiger fruit first? Forget it. There's no point talking to someone like you. If you don't leave now, don't blame me for being rude." I lifted the other basket of coal on my back. The wolves also let out howls at just the right moment to back me up. Zhang Haoxiang fled, leaving behind only one sentence: "You just wait, I will definitely be back." This is just like a primary school student saying, "Don't leave after school," completely lacking any threat. On the way back, my daughter clung tightly to the fur on White Wolf's forehead and refused to let go. Her eyes were filled with anticipation. "Star, is that you coming back to me?" The White Wolf's large eyes flickered with a hint of human-like helplessness. Then it let out a soft whimper, as if to say, "I really don't know what to do with you." After returning home and neatly stacking the coal, Zhang Haoxiang reappeared on the surveillance footage. At this point, he was covered in injuries and looked utterly disheveled. After venting his helpless rage and throwing a tantrum at my house, the doorbell rang. A dense, dark crowd of people was gathered outside. So it was. The secret of Zhang Haoxiang's ability to transform had already spread throughout the entire neighborhood. As for who leaked it, it goes without saying, everyone knelt before Zhang Haoxiang, hoping he would go out hunting to obtain food. At first, he thought about playing dumb and trying to brush it off. Unexpectedly, Su Muqing behind him wasn't having it. Hey, Haoxiang is my husband, why should he do all the work for free? Transforming takes a huge toll on him. You have to pay." Originally, Zhang Haoxiang had been a bit resentful that Su Muqing had told others about his ability to transform, but hearing the one she loved call her husband in front of everyone gave her vanity an unprecedented sense of satisfaction. He grinned foolishly and agreed, and so, Su Muqing started making money in the neighborhood by leveraging Zhang Haoxiang's reputation. 1 pound of rabbit meat for 1,000. 1 pound of pork for 3,000. This is simply an exorbitant price, but by this time, the neighbors were already living a hand-to-mouth existence. The more unfortunate ones had even started gnawing on tree bark and digging up roots. For them at this point, money was just worthless paper. Far better to exchange it for something to eat. It seems like a win-win situation, but things are not that simple. Under the pressure of orders, Zhang Haoxiang had no choice but to push himself to take risks. At first, the gains were substantial, and he and Su Muqing amassed enormous wealth. However, as the temperature gradually rose, animal activity became increasingly rare. He had to gather enough coal to support 3 people, but the game he brought back each day was becoming less and less, and Su Muqing, having had enough of money, had changed as well. Seeing that the food could not satisfy everyone, she started an auction system. What was being sold was not money, but people. She forced her neighbors to sell themselves to her, making them serve her like beasts of burden. This allowed her to savor the fragrance of power. It wasn't that no neighbors wanted to resist, but facing Zhang Haoxiang's sharp claws, they shrank back. But the good times didn't last long. One day, having failed to catch any prey, Zhang Haoxiang took a desperate risk and set his sights on the giant lizard. But faced with the ferocious giant lizard, he was afraid. Animals are more sensitive than humans and better at bullying the weak and fearing the strong. Zhang Haoxiang was severely injured as a result. After discovering his severe injuries, Su Muqing not only did not save him but instead fled back to her own home and locked the door. Through the thick security door, Zhang Haoxiang pleaded, "Give me the medicine, I'm dying." Su Muqing flatly refused. "This is the life-saving medicine for me and my child. If I give it to you, what will happen to us if something goes wrong?" Even Li Chaoyang, whom he usually regarded as his own son, spat at him. Helpless, Zhang Haoxiang had to settle for the next best option. "Can you give me something to eat?" "No." "On what grounds?" "I brought that back with my own hands." Su Muqing chuckled softly and said, "Once you've given something to someone, how can you ask for it back? This was a voluntary gift. Even if we go to court, I'd win." Zhang Haoxiang was dumbfounded, unable to catch his breath, and immediately fainted dead away. I watched with immense satisfaction. "You had it coming. Serves you right." Zhang Haoxiang disappeared without a trace for a long time, not knowing whether it is alive or dead, and at this very moment, I am watering the sapling. This is a fruit tree that the star led me to find. I felt as if I had found a treasure. Who understands, after 2 years of eating meat, the feeling of redemption upon seeing a fruit tree, after watering and fertilizing? I looked at my daughter. She was riding on the back of the star, dashing all over the valley. A radiant smile lit up her face, and even her autism seemed to have improved during this time. "What would you like for lunch?" "Stir-fried beef with yellow peppers, or braised pork." Unexpectedly, her daughter looked disgusted. "I don't want to eat meat. I want to eat vegetables." I couldn't help but sigh and smile wryly. While others treasure even a single bite of food, my daughter is already being picky. It feels less like survival and more like a vacation. Shaking off this strange thought, I took my daughter out to the market. Relying on the scarce water source, I became friends with fierce animals like elephants, rhinos, and black bears. It's not that no fierce beasts had ill intentions toward me, but when they saw me tossing a huge boulder around like a toy in my hand, all their bad intentions vanished. We're all just bros. I set rules for them. We gather every once in a while to exchange local specialties. In this post-apocalyptic world where the sun can scorch you to death, water is the real currency. My secret base is now filled with all sorts of strange things: diamonds, pearls, ginseng. The most exaggerated of all was a large piece of metal that an elephant brought to me, pure gold. Before reaching the gathering place, the star suddenly let out a low growl. "It's warning me that someone is following." I shouted sharply, "Who's there?" "Long time no see." A person slowly emerged from behind the tree. It was Zhang Haoxiang. At that moment, he was unshaven, his clothes were tattered, and he looked like a beggar. "Xiaoxue, you and our daughter are actually still alive. That's wonderful. I thought something had happened to you. You have no idea how that bitch Su Muqing treated me. She usually flattered me, but the moment I lost my usefulness, she just kicked me out." My response was unusually brief. "Oh, so," Zhang Haoxiang said sincerely, "so I realized, you and our daughter are my true love. I was wrong. I admit I did a lot of terrible things before, but now I've come to my senses. Let me come back. I swear, I'll be a good husband and a good father." He looked at me with genuine emotion, as if that alone could make me change my mind. All he received in return was my cold reply: "You don't know you were wrong. You just know you're about to starve to death." Seeing my firm stance, he could only look at our daughter with a pleading expression. "Sweetie, I'm your dad. Don't you love me the most? From now on, I'll spend every day with you." "Okay," our daughter said firmly. "No," Zhang Haoxiang asked eagerly. "Why?" "I am your father, after all, because you killed Xingxing." Zhang Haoxiang laughed in anger. "Do you mean that in your eyes, your father is not even as good as a dog?" The daughter tilted her head in thought for a moment, then said softly, "Not as good." She glanced at Star and continued, far from it. This completely shattered Zhang Haoxiang's fragile psychological defenses. He laughed nervously. The big one is like this, and the little one is like this too. As expected, women are all ungrateful wolves that can't be tamed. If that's the case, let's all die together. He turned back into that tiger. This time there's only one wolf. Let's see what you'll do about it. Looking at Zhang Haoxiang, who seemed to have victory in the bag, I smiled. We arrived at the gathering place. Just as Zhang Haoxiang was baring his teeth in a fierce expression, a sharp pain shot through his back. He turned his head in confusion while in mid-air. A small hill stood behind him. That was the elephant flinging him away with its trunk, as soon as he landed. Dazed and disoriented, he felt the ground trembling. A rhinoceros, like an armored vehicle, was charging toward him. Zhang Haoxiang's face turned pale as he barely dodged the impact, only to be met with a massive palm striking the back of his head. It was a black bear, and there were many other fierce beasts attacking him. After all, in their eyes, I was the ancient Greek god in charge of water at that moment. How dare a little tiger like him hurt me? This time, Zhang Haoxiang still managed to escape. But judging by his unsteady steps, he was seriously injured. Ignoring this little episode, I kindly placed the bucket on the ground. Don't rush, everyone gets one. Dragging a bunch of local specialties back home, Zhang Haoxiang gave me a huge surprise. In the surveillance footage, he transformed into a tiger, radiating a fierce aura, and was continuously attacking Su Muqing's front door. The door was as flimsy as paper, torn open in an instant. Su Muqing was so frightened that her face turned pale. Help! Can anyone save me? Everyone had their doors tightly shut. She had forgotten how she had once enslaved others. Zhang Haoxiang sneered as he approached Su Muqing. You bitch, die. Su Muqing quickly pleaded in a low voice. Haoxiang, what I said earlier was just out of anger. Can we make up? I actually love you the most, and I was just confused at that time. We even promised to get married. Have you forgotten? As she spoke, she began to undress, under her gentle persuasion. Zhang Haoxiang succumbed once again, but this time, he became unusually rough. At the slightest dissatisfaction, he would punch and kick Su Muqing. Su Muqing could also endure in silence, but the resentment in her eyes couldn't deceive me. She hated Zhang Haoxiang and also despised the neighbors who had left her to die without offering help. At her suggestion, Zhang Haoxiang tore down the doors of every household. They seized the food and coal from each home, greedily enjoying the cool air, and even created a duty roster, treating all the neighbors as slaves. The civilized community has turned into a small slave society. At the top of the pyramid is Zhang Haoxiang, with Su Muqing and her child below him. Below them are the other enslaved neighbors. A neighbor once tried to resist by poisoning Zhang Haoxiang. Su Muqing, sharp-eyed, reported it. That neighbor died a gruesome death, torn to pieces by the enraged Zhang Haoxiang. This reign of terror lasted for an entire year. Everyone is used to it. In their view, Zhang Haoxiang is strong, capable of protecting them, and able to obtain food and energy. Although not everyone gets a share, at least there is some hope. This won't do. I quietly went back to the residential area. After giving some food to the neighbors, a piece of gossip spread throughout the community. Only 3 years left in this time travel, and I'll be going home soon. Instantly, people's minds began to change. The anger hidden in everyone's hearts was stirred up once again. Su Muqing was the first to strike. After a year of feigned compliance, Zhang Haoxiang had let his guard down around her, so when Su Muqing plunged the dagger into his chest, his eyes were filled with disbelief. Why? I love you so much. Why? Su Muqing's eyes were filled with hatred. Bah, do you think you're like the Chinese currency, and everyone has to like you? To be honest, if it weren't for the food, you wouldn't even be in line. Every minute and every second I spend with you, I feel disgusted. Su Muqing, still not satisfied, thrust the dagger 3 inches deeper. Li Zhaoyang, whom Zhang Haoxiang had once treated as his own son, was not idle either, continuously stabbing him with a small fruit knife. While stabbing, he muttered, I'll beat you to death, you bad guy who bullied mom. Zhang Haoxiang is dead. He did not die peacefully. The outcome for Su Muqing and her child was also tragic. When the neighbors discovered Zhang Haoxiang's body, their anger was directed at them. Following Zhang Haoxiang this year, they did plenty of bad things as well. no matter how they pleaded, the blows from the sticks did not lessen in the slightest. They only outlived Zhang Haoxiang by 15 minutes. Watching this scene, I felt no emotion inside, and even felt a little like laughing. I made myself a drink to celebrate. The sunlight gradually weakened, and the land, scorched for 3 years, began to cool down. I understand. It's time to go home. The bodies of Zhang Haoxiang and Su Muqing, mother and son, were discovered by the police, but all the neighbors gave surprisingly consistent accounts. They killed each other. Since the scene had completely vanished with the passage of time, the police had no choice but to accept this conclusion. Standing at the doorstep of my home, I felt as if a lifetime had passed. 3 years ago, Zhang Haoxiang and I were still deeply in love. And this house witnessed the happiness of our family. 3 years later, everything has changed, and even the once familiar home is now in complete disarray. I didn't go inside. Instead, I listed it online at a low price, then turned and left with my daughter. Mom, where are we going? Home. Can we take the stars with us on the journey? I turned around in disbelief. A little puppy was standing obediently behind my daughter. If it weren't for the markings on its head, I would hardly have been able to connect this little puppy with the majestic leader of the giant wolves. Wah wah, Star growled in response. A smile appeared at the corner of my mouth. All right, let's go, we're heading home.